Alright, this is sort of a continuation of my video on altars, which I will put a link to here in the video and in the description below. And if you haven't watched that video, go back and watch it, because in that video I explained how to set your altar up and the reasons behind the way it's set up. But in this video we're going to take a look at the difference between an altar to an Ouranic deity and an altar to a Chthonic deity. Just as an Ouranic deity resides on a higher plane of existence than us, the altar itself is elevated above the ground. In a Hellenic aspect, when you pray before an Ouranic altar, you do so with your hands before you or to your side and your palms facing upwards to the heavens. Now the Chthonic altar is a little different in the traditional sense, as it's made up of a sort of pit in the ground and usually contains a fire within it in which offerings or sacrifices are burnt. This is symbolic in the sense as it is an altar to an underworld deity, and when you pray before a Chthonic altar or to a Chthonic deity, you should do so in the same manner as the Ouranic, but with your palms facing downward. Now, altars dedicated to spirits of the more earthly plane, these altars would be best made from a naturally forming ground. And the fact that these spirits reside more within the physical world and are neither Ouranic or Chthonic, we would hold our hands out in the same manner as before when praying, but with our palms facing forward. If you have anything you'd like to add to this, different take, how your tradition performs these tasks, please leave it in the comments below. Now let's discuss a little about offerings. I often see debate on how you should discard your offerings left on altars and how to know if they are accepted or not. So let's look first at discarding offerings. I prefer to discard my offerings by burning, typically at the end of the lunar month, simply because Hestia represents the flame within the Hellenic context, and it is through Hestia that the gods receive our offerings. Traditionally, she is the first to receive offerings, and this is because she is the embodiment of the flame in which the gods receive the offerings that we give. There are also other ways in which one could discard their offerings, which may be done for special celebrations, occurrences, or if divination dictates you to do so. You may bury the offerings, place them in running water, or leave them in the wild. And I often see that some people discard their offerings by throwing them in the trash. And while this may be the only option for some, I would try to avoid this practice. The reason being that placing anything onto an altar sets it apart from the mundane, and discarding it into the trash simply does not feel right to me. However, at the end of the day, I'm not telling you how to perform your practices, and if that is the only option for you, then I'm sure the gods will understand, and you can do what you feel is right. So, how do you know if your offerings were accepted? I've heard some people say that if your offerings develop mold, that is a sign of acceptance. And there's not truly a way that we can know for sure. However, I disagree with that. If the gods are divine beings and partake of the good, then why should something they touch decay? In my experience, when a food offering is completely accepted by the gods, it petrifies and maintains its shape and form. When wine is accepted, it evaporates, and what is left is a sort of paste which may be used in consecrations. However, that's a topic for another time. So in the end, there are different ways to view these practices, and this is how I view them within my own practice. If you have another view, please comment below and share. Look in the description for a link to the Discord server and Facebook group, and if you like this video, hit that like button and subscribe. Also consider sharing to help the channel grow. You can also check out my blog at echoesfrometernity.com, which will be linked below as well. Thank you for joining me here at Echoes from the Temple, where we bridge the spiritual with the magical, and I'll see you in the next video.